Hello and welcome to Wednesday Live with Evie number 31, and today we're talking about time blocking and will it work for you? So before I get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Evie Burke. I work with entrepreneurs and I help them be more productive. I help them take their productivity to a new level, and if that's something that's interesting to you, then you are in the right spot. So a couple of things before we get started, as I'm not going to be able to share this today because my desktop is not playing nicely. So we'll see if it works. If it does, I'll share it off a couple of places. If not, that's okay too. So before we get started, a couple of things I want to share is that if you're not already in the Facebook group, Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs, head over there and join us. And it's exactly what it sounds like, Productivity for Women Entrepreneurs. That's the name of it. It's a free group and it's a great place to be if you're looking for a spot just to get a little productivity encouragement. So every Monday I ask, what's your most important thing to get done this week? And then on Friday I ask, how did you do? So it's a little bit of accountability and some support there. So head over there and join us. And if you're feeling overwhelmed with all the stuff you got to get done and you can't pick just one thing that is most important for the week, head over to my website, oneinsightcloser.com, and check out the freebie there called How to Choose Priorities When Everything is Important. Because what it'll do is it'll walk you through how to get all that stuff that's swirling around in your head out of your head and onto a piece of paper and prioritize it. So if that sounds like something that you could use, head over there and grab that. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic about time blocking and will it work for you. So I was thinking about time blocking last week, and let's define what I mean when I say time blocking. So time blocking isn't time management. It's a form of time management. It's part of time management, but it's not the entirety of time management. So what it is, I'm looking at my notes over here if you're wondering why I'm looking off to the side here. Time management is all the things that go into how you decide to spend your time and how you set up your business and your life to work in a way that works for you. Time blocking specifically is when you have blocks of time that you put types of activities that you're going to do for the week. So it might be marketing, it might be general work things, it might be networking, it might be one-on-ones, might be client time, whatever that looks like for you. Those are blocks of time that you're setting aside for, the things that you need to do in your business, right? And ideally you also have, this is the start of my day, this is the end of the day, so that you also have blocks of time that are for your personal time. And those might not be specifically outlined, but that at this time, at the end of the night, at the end of the business day, the rest of the day is for my family or for me or for whatever it is that you like to do with your free time. So what time blocking isn't is taking all those things that you need to do and scheduling them into your calendar. Some people really love doing that, taking the to-dos that they have that they want to do for the week and scheduling them. And that's what that is. That's scheduling your tasks. That's not time blocking. As I define it anyway. So when I talk about when time blocking doesn't work for you, if you're scheduling every single item into your calendar, that might not work for you. And I know that doesn't work for me, and quite frankly, that kind of makes me go bonkers. So that might be somewhere where time blocking, when you're using it as time scheduling instead, that might not work for you. The other time blocking might not work for you is if your business that you're trying to grow is a side business. If it's something that you're doing something else full time or 3/4 time or whatever it is, and you only have maybe an hour or two each day to work on your business, time blocking might not work for you, because your time block is, I have 1 hour to do something for my business. So that's your time block, and dividing that into more sections, or even, through the week, that might not work for you, and that's fine. So just realize if you only have an hour or two every week to work in your business, time blocking probably isn't really going to work for you, because you're already doing it. You're saying that, this 1 hour period, that's the time block I have to work on my business, and defining it any more detailed, that might lead to crazy making again. So something beeped. Okay. Anyway, that was my phone. I'm not sure what that alert was. The other time when time blocking doesn't work is when you're trying to take a 5-pound bag of potatoes and fit it in a 2-pound, or when you're trying to take 5 pounds of potatoes, rather, and you're trying to fit it into a 2-pound bag. So if you're trying to do too much in your time block, that's not going to work either. So if you have 10 hours of stuff to do and you've given yourself 6 hours to work on it, it's not going to work for you. It's going to drive you crazy. So you need to be aware of how long things are going to take you. Give yourself a little buffer time, because sometimes things take longer than we expect. A lot of times things take longer than we expect. And sometimes there's, thank you, Cindy, and sometimes there's unexpected things that pop up. So a phone call, a task that popped up that needs to be done now that you thought maybe needed to be done in a week. You have those unexpected things that pop up sometimes in your business, so you want to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. And again, when you're trying to fit in to a 2-pound bag 5 pounds of potatoes, it's not going to work. So instead, work with what you have and just admit, okay, there's a lot to get done here. What needs to get done right now and what can wait? What's going to have to wait? Because you're not going to be able to get everything done. Yes, and then the other time blocking doesn't work is what we talked about before, when you're scheduling your to-dos into your calendar versus working with time blocks. Again, for some people, scheduling to-dos into their calendar works really well for them. I'm not one of those people, so if scheduling your to-dos into your calendar works, have at it, have fun. But if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. You don't need to do that. Just know how much time you have each day to do your business tasks and kind of how that breakdown looks, and you'll be successful with it. All right, so when time blocking works. Time blocking works when you know what are the things that you need to get done for the week. And that's not only the to-dos, it's also the things that happen every week. What are the things you do every week or even every day that need to find a home in your week? And so like one example for me is my newsletter. I write my newsletter every week. And I don't put in my calendar that, I'm spending this 15 minutes to create an image for the Facebook Live, or this 10 minutes to create the event, or 45 minutes to write the article, or whatever it is. I just look at all of the items. Okay, what are the things that need to get done? How long do those things take? Usually it takes me 2 to 3 hours. So I have a 3-hour block of time. Write the newsletter, write the emails that go with the newsletter, all of that stuff, and it's blocked out on Monday mornings. That's my time block to do the newsletter. And what that allows me to do is, if writing the newsletter takes a little bit longer and something else is a little bit shorter, I have all that time kind of buffered in there with a little bit of extra time, because like I said, sometimes it takes me 2 hours, sometimes it takes me 3 hours. It depends on how long it takes me to write out, what it is and draft out the script for these. So I have a rough script that I use when I go through these just to make sure I'm hitting my points. So I have that time blocked out. I have other time for networking. I have other time for one-on-ones. I have time blocked out, this is my time to do the to-dos for the week. Sometimes, depending on how I've created my time block for the week, I have times for making phone calls. So it just depends on what time blocks work for you. And it might be you have some of the same as me, it might be you have some different. But what are the things, a good place to start is what are the things that happen every single day or every single week that need to be accounted for? And those might not be time blocks, those just might be things you write down on your to-do list every single week that need to be done. And that's okay too. You just know that they fall in, a time block of working on your to-dos. Let's see. All right, so what can make time blocking work better for you? One way is to have an anchor item, or an anchor task. And that might be a habit that you have where every morning you get up and you have breakfast and you have your routine in the morning, and then you go into the office and you review your to-do list. Or you review how you blocked your time, or whatever it is. That could be an anchor item, the routine or the habits that you've set up. It could be something that happens at the same time every day. So it could be that you have a daily call with your accountability buddy every day at 9 o'clock. And that gets you moving for the day. You just quick 5-minute call that says, hey, this is my top task for the day, I got my top task done from yesterday, or I didn't, and this is my top task for the day. It could be, I'm trying to look at what other examples I had. That might be a weekly thing where you have that call on Monday or Friday. And that's kind of one of those things that you schedule your other stuff around. It could be you have a weekly Facebook Live, like I do, where this happens at 1 o'clock every week. Newsletter has to go out before it, reminders go out before it, other things happen around it, but this is something that is set in stone every week that needs to get done. I'm trying to think of what some other examples are off the top of my head. I've already gone through my examples and I want to use a couple of more for you, but what are those things? I know one coach who he schedules client calls in the morning, every morning, so that's the first thing he does in the morning, because that moves him into the rest of his day. It gives him a reason. I have to be in the office at X time, and then he can do the rest of the stuff throughout the day. Another thing that can help your time blocking work better is something I already mentioned a little bit, and that's leaving yourself some buffer time. So don't overschedule your day. Don't try to fit in 3 hours of stuff in 2 hours. And I would even go so far as, don't try to schedule 3 hours of things in 3 hours, because again, sometimes things take longer. Sometimes you need a break and just need to get up and walk around. And sometimes unexpected things happen, client calls, there's an interruption, whatever it is. And that's okay. So just leave yourself that buffer time in there. And how to use it. So one of the, I call it's, for this example, we're calling it time blocking. You've also probably heard me, if you've done any programs with me or have been watching these pretty regularly. I also sometimes call it your ideal week or your planning week, where it just kind of gives you that framework for the week that you can then know what needs to happen for the week. It gives you those time blocks so that let's say you are planning on spending 30 hours in your business for the week. And when you can block off your time, you can start to recognize, okay, if I'm working every day in my business from 9 to, let's say, 4, and you're saying, okay, that's what, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 7 hours a week or a day. well, what else needs to fit in there? So you're going to have lunch in there. So let's just, for ease of me doing time math, that's now you're down to 6 hours a day because lunch is an hour. And you're going to be looking at your email and keeping up with your social media and responding to emails and whatever else. So let's say that's a half hour. So let's say that's an hour. Again, ease of my time math here. So now you have 5 hours left. And you know that throughout the week, you're going to be having one-on-one time with people, or you're going to be networking. So, that's time gone. So what you're left with is, instead of, okay, so 7 times 5, 35. So instead of 35 hours for the week to actually work through your to-do list, now you have 25 hours. And when you start taking into account your networking and your one-on-one time, maybe you have 10 hours, 15 hours left. Which, that's still a lot of time, but if you are creating your to-do list thinking I have 30 hours to get tasks done, or 35 hours to get tasks done, and you realize you have 10 hours, how frustrating is it going to be at the end of the week when you have all of these tasks that aren't done because you didn't have 25 or 30 hours to move all those projects forward, or to get those to-do items done, or to make those phone calls. Instead, you had 10 or 15 hours. So when you can block out your time, when you have, more time there to work with, that can really be helpful. So one thing I will mention is, I know that there are people who have schedules that are very fluid. So there's the same things that they do every week. There are the same things that they do every week, but it's not necessarily consistent. So realtors are a good example, where they know that, I'm guessing you probably know generally about how much time you're going to be spending with your clients each week. It might fluctuate a little bit depending on, what houses come up that fit their criteria. But you probably have a general idea about what that time is how much time that's going to take, even if you don't know exactly when that time is going to be. So saying that you're going to be out showing houses from 2 to 3 on Wednesday, or 2 to 5 or 6 or whatever it is on Wednesday, that just might not be something that is ever going to be consistent. So just know what that time is, and still you can still kind of give yourself an outline, and just know that it's more fluid and things move, and still know that, okay, I have about 10 hours or 5 hours to work with my schedule. And the other thing with time blocking, change it as needed. So if you've blocked out your schedule and you have, your time blocks in a way that makes sense for you when you go through the week, and you realize that something just isn't working for you, change it. Just change it. It's yours. It's your time. Change it so that it works for you. One of the things I didn't say at the beginning that maybe I should have, so I will ask it now, a question I should have asked, is what questions do you guys have about time blocking? So I spent about, what are we at, about 20 minutes in, and covered quite a bit. What questions do you guys have? Or what about time blocking works for you or doesn't work for you that either has or hasn't been addressed here? I'd love to know. So as I'm waiting for anybody who might want to comment, so Cindy, you commented on my haircut. Thank you. When I came home from, this is a personal story, so Cindy's my sister. When I came home from getting my hair cut, Nate looked at my hair and said, "Oh, you got it cut Cindy short." So I just thought I'd share that with you because I thought you'd find that amusing. So if there are no questions or comments, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover with time blocking. Yeah. Yeah, if you're having, the other thing I'll say here is, as with everything that I share with you, try it out, see if it works for you, and take the pieces that work for you and use those going forward, and don't use what doesn't work for you. Give it a chance though. One of the ways that I do my time blocking is I have a Google Calendar. And so with Google Calendars, you can easily create new calendars, and then you can toggle on your phone or on the computer, you know, when you're in your browser, you can toggle which calendars you're looking at. So I have one that's called, I don't know what it's called actually off the top of my head. Okay, I'll answer Barb's question in a minute here. So, because you can turn those calendars on and off, if you map out your time blocking for the week, then it makes it really easy to overlay with your appointments, and see what maybe needs to be moved around. And again, do what works for you. If that doesn't work for you, you know, don't do it. Try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, you know, move on to something else. If it does work, great. So Barb, you mentioned, and you had emailed me this too, if I was referring to time blocking as time management. So the way that I define time blocking is a part of time management, but it is not the entirety of time management. So time blocking is one way to help manage your time. And the way that I use time blocking is where you take types of activities and you schedule them, or you put them into your calendar, but they're not appointments. Sometimes people talk about time blocking and they're talking about making appointments to do specific tasks, and that works really well for some people. That makes me crazy, so I don't do that personally. So figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Does that answer your question, Barb? And I know that there's a couple of second lag here, so it's always the question of, so what do I talk about while I'm waiting for a response or for questions? So I'm trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to cover here. Okay, good. It does answer your questions. And for those of you who aren't on live, feel free to, you know, pop your questions below and I will respond to them when I see them. So I should get an alert if you pop any other questions down there and I'll answer it. So Cindy asks, how do you hold yourself accountable if you have time blocked for something that doesn't have an immediate need? Yes, that's a good question. So it depends, but you do need to do it to support your business. Can you give me an example of what it is a little bit? So I know last week I talked about needing to be flexible in your business. Is that what I was? Yes. I don't remember if I shared this part as part of last week or some other time, but one of the things I know for me is a lot of times I need hard deadlines to get something done. So if I'm shooting on myself, then it's not going to work as well. So yeah, I think I did talk about this a little bit last week, where my newsletter, I always thought that I needed to have my newsletter done like 2 to 3 days or even a week in advance, because that's how I felt I should do it. That's how I felt, that's how one of the first coaches I worked with, how she was doing it, because she would get it done and then send it off to her team that would then put it in the newsletter. So she needed to have it done early. And one of the things that I picked up was it's better to start with habits in place, and then, you know, the habit's already created and you don't have to change anything. For me, doing my newsletter 2 or 3 days in advance doesn't work for me. It'll run much faster for me. It'll be written much faster for me. The ideas will flow better for me if I write it the day of or the day before, you know, depending on my schedule. However, I do have, you know, a hard deadline because I've made a commitment to myself and to my viewers and to my accountability group, to the mastermind group that I'm in, that I will do Facebook Lives every week at 1 o'clock. So these Wednesday Lives with Evie. So that means there's things that need to happen before that. And so that gives me that anchor item to work around. Okay, so you specifically, though, are mentioning attending events, writing articles, you know, marketing. So let's see. So the original question was, how do you hold yourself accountable if you have time blocked for something that doesn't have an immediate need? So marketing is one of those things where you need to do it because you want to have more business and have clients. And there's also existing clients and existing things to take care of. So where is that balance of what needs to be done? So attending events, some of those deadlines, some of those can be deadline just because you make a decision. I'm going to go to this event. You put it in your calendar and you make it happen. I know sometimes that's easier said than done. And for writing articles, is there a deadline that you can get for writing an article? So one thing might be, you know, depending on, are you like, if it's writing a blog, is it something that you want to commit to doing once a month, once a week? Are you submitting articles somewhere where somebody has asked you to write something? Can you ask them, you know, when does this need to be done by, so that they can give you some sort of a deadline to work with? And it could be you need an accountability buddy or somebody that, you know, somebody else that you're talking with, that you're saying, this is what I commit to getting done this week. You know, I commit to going to this networking event this week. And then you check in with them the next week and you need to tell them whether you got it done or not. That might be, I know your business, Cindy, so it might be somebody in your office. It might be somebody else. It might be a friend that is in a similar business or at a similar spot that you connect with on a weekly or daily, but weekly generally tends to be a good meeting time. So it might be that you work with somebody, you know, as an accountability buddy, or even a coach. You know, you could work with a coach to help you kind of figure out what are the mix of the marketing things that I need to do to the client work that I need to do, so that you can make sure you have the amount of client work that you want to create the income that you want. So it's, without having you here to like talk with me about it like directly and work through, you know, what might or might not be going on, it's kind of hard to say, here's the one thing you need to do to make sure you get your marketing things done, because there's a lot of pieces to marketing and networking and things like that. So you're welcome. So hopefully something in there was helpful. And with any of you that are here, never feel like you can't just reach out to me directly and ask me a question. I'm super accessible, so feel free to reach out and ask a question and start a conversation with me. I'm happy to do that with you. Like I said, I'm accessible. There's not other than, you know, we're virtual, so I can't hear you talking back to me, or talking with me. You know, feel free to reach out and, you know, let me know if you have a question, and whether that's in a comment or whether you send me a private message, you know, whatever that is, feel free to reach out and ask me a question. I'm happy to help you and be a resource and support you. So we're at a half hour, so I am going to bring this to a close. So again, this has been Wednesday Live with Evie. This was number 31. And the topic was, what was the topic? Time blocking. Will it work for you? So below, let me know what your biggest takeaway was. What is something that you will be implementing or trying out this week? I'd love to know. So leave that below, and I will see you next week with another topic. And until then, much love. Bye. You're welcome.